I was 34, driving through the desert of Nevada in the late summer of 2025, on a road trip with my parents to escape the grind of my life in Reno. My mom, always the planner, had insisted on visiting some obscure ghost town she'd read about online, a place called Coldwater, supposedly abandoned since the 1930s. My dad, ever the skeptic, grumbled about the heat but went along to keep her happy. I was just glad to be out of the city, the open road stretching endlessly before us, sagebrush and cracked earth under a sky that felt too big. But what happened on that lonely stretch of State Route 375, under the unrelenting sun and later the suffocating dark, was a horror so deep it's carved into me, a wound that won't heal. It was mid-afternoon when we started out, the SUV loaded with snacks and my mom's old Polaroid camera for memories. The road was desolate, no other cars for miles, just heat waves shimmering on the asphalt. My phone had no signal, and the radio was a mess of static, occasionally spitting out snippets of old country songs. My mom was in the front passenger seat, chattering about Coldwater's history. Something about a mining disaster, families vanishing overnight, but I was only half listening, lulled by the hum of the engine. My dad kept his eyes on the road, his hand steady, though I caught him glancing in the rearview mirror more than usual, like he sensed something I didn't. About an hour in, the air changed. It wasn't just the heat, it was a pressure, like the desert was pressing down on us. The radio cut out completely, replaced by a faint, rhythmic sound, like a heartbeat, pulsing through the speakers. My mom frowned, twisting the dial, but it didn't stop. Then we saw her. A woman, standing in the middle of the road, maybe 100 yards ahead. She was small, dressed in a faded sundress, her hair long and tangled, blowing in a wind that didn't exist. My dad slowed the car, cursing under his breath. "What the hell's she doing out here?" he muttered, but my mom's hand shot out, grabbing his arm. "Don't stop," she whispered, her voice sharp with fear. I leaned forward, squinting. The woman wasn't moving, just standing there, her head tilted down, her face hidden by her hair. As we got closer, I saw her hands, pale, skeletal, clutching something small and dark, like a bundle of cloth. My dad honked, but she didn't budge. He swerved to avoid her, the SUV's tires kicking up dust, and as we passed, I looked out my window. Her head snapped up, and I saw her face, or what should have been a face. It was blank, just smooth, grayish skin, no eyes, no nose, only a mouth, small and puckered, like a wound that wouldn't close. She was holding a doll, its face mirroring hers, and it was staring right at me. My mom screamed, a sound I'd never heard from her, raw and primal. My dad floored it, the SUV lurching forward, but the heartbeat sound from the radio grew louder, faster, syncing with my own pulse. I looked back, and she was still there, standing in the same spot, but now there were others, figures dotting the horizon, all identical, all holding those faceless dolls, their heads turning to follow us. "Keep going!" I shouted, my voice cracking, but the road seemed to stretch longer, the desert warping around us, the sky darkening though it was only 3 p.m. The SUV started to sputter, the dashboard lights flickering. My dad swore, slamming his hand on the wheel, but the engine died, and we coasted to a stop in the middle of nowhere. The heartbeat sound was deafening now, vibrating through the car, and my mom was sobbing, clutching her Polaroid like it could protect her. I tried my phone, my dad's, hers, nothing, all dead. The air was thick with that same pressure, and a smell hit us, like rotting flowers and something metallic, like blood. Outside, the figures were closer, maybe 50 yards away, standing in a perfect circle around the car, their blank faces tilted toward us, their dolls dangling from bony hands. My mom started whispering, "She's calling me," over and over, her eyes wide and unfocused. My dad grabbed her shoulders, shaking her gently, but she wouldn't stop. I looked out the window, and one of the figures was right there, inches from the glass, its mouth opening slowly, impossibly wide, revealing rows of tiny, needle-like teeth. It didn't speak, but I heard it in my head, a voice, soft and desperate, like a mother calling for a lost child. "Come home," it said. "Come to me." I don't know how I stayed calm. I grabbed my mom's hand, pulling her focus, and told my dad to try the engine again. He turned the key, and somehow it roared to life, the heartbeat sound cutting off like a snapped thread. We peeled out, the figures still standing there, unmoving, their dolls swinging like pendulums. The road seemed to shift, the ghost town of Coldwater appearing suddenly on our right, a cluster of rotting buildings, windows black and empty. My mom was crying silently now, her hands trembling as she clutched the Polaroid. My dad didn't stop, didn't even look at the town, just kept driving until the figures and the buildings were gone, swallowed by the desert. We didn't speak until we hit a gas station an hour later, the SUV running on fumes. My parents were shaken, their faces gray, and I wasn't much better. We didn't go to Coldwater. We turned around, drove straight back to Reno, the silence between us heavy with what we'd seen. But the worst came later, when my mom developed the Polaroid she'd taken that day. Every photo was blank, except one, a grainy image of the desert, with a single figure in the distance, holding a doll, its blank face turned toward the camera. My mom burned the photo, but I saw her hands shake as she did it, and I heard her whisper, "She's still calling." We never talked about it again. My parents went back to Ohio, and I moved to a new apartment, away from the desert's edge. But I can't escape it. At night, I hear that heartbeat, faint but persistent, like it's buried in my chest. And sometimes when I'm alone, I smell that rotting flower stench, and I feel her voice, her call, pulling me back to that road, to her empty face, waiting for me to answer.